The lecture hall buzzed with nervous energy as cadets from 12 different species settled into their seats. Professor Aldrich's tentacles moved gracefully as he prepared his presentation, his large eyes scanning the mixed crowd of future defenders. Today's lesson would cover the most dangerous predator known to the galaxy. Ryan Walsh sat in the middle row, his human features standing out among the colorful array of alien classmates. To his left, Nira's compound eyes reflected the light from the holographic display. Her insect-like body remained perfectly still, a sign of deep attention among her people. On his right, Bolt's crystalline form caught and scattered light in beautiful patterns, while his friend Finn's amphibious skin shifted from green to blue with anticipation. Today we discuss death itself, Professor Aldrich began, his voice carrying the weight of personal experience, the creature that has ended more colonial expeditions than space plague and solar storms combined. The apex hunter. The lights dimmed as a three-dimensional image appeared above their heads. The creature stood 6 feet tall on powerful hind legs, its body covered in sleek, dark fur that seemed to absorb light. Razor-sharp claws extended from each digit, and intelligent eyes glowed with predatory focus. Its mouth opened to reveal rows of teeth designed for tearing and crushing. Several cadets shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A few from the prey species' homeworlds actually whimpered at the sight. These beasts possess intelligence that rivals most sentient species, the professor continued. They hunt in coordinated packs of 3 to 5 individuals. Their natural camouflage allows them to blend perfectly with their surroundings. They can remain motionless for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The hologram shifted, showing the creature's muscular structure. Their bone density is 3 times that of most species. Their claws can cut through standard military armor like paper. They move with the silence of shadow and the speed of lightning. When an apex hunter decides to kill you, you have perhaps 2 seconds to make peace with whatever gods you worship. Ryan found himself studying the creature with interest rather than fear. Something about its posture and the way it held its head reminded him of something familiar, though he couldn't quite place what. The first recorded encounter happened on Colony World Meridian 4, Professor Aldrich went on, a research team of 23 scientists and 12 security personnel. When the rescue ship arrived 3 days after their last transmission, they found nothing but blood and scattered equipment. No bodies, no survivors, no trace of what had happened. Only claw marks on the walls and a single blurry security recording of something moving too fast for the camera to track. The hologram changed to show a peaceful colony settlement, then shifted to images of destruction. Buildings torn apart, vehicles overturned, clear signs of a massacre. The silence in the room grew heavier. Since then, we have lost 17 colonies to apex hunter attacks. The pattern is always the same. The creatures appear without warning, strike with devastating efficiency, and vanish into the wilderness. Our best military units have tried to track them down. None have succeeded. Those who encounter them in the wild do not return to tell about it. Finn's skin had turned a pale yellow, a sign of distress among his people. Nira's antennae twitched nervously, and even Bolt's usual crystalline glow had dimmed noticeably. This is why Standard Defense Protocol 7 exists, the professor emphasized, his tentacles spreading wide for maximum effect. The moment apex hunter presence is detected on any world, immediate evacuation begins. No attempts at communication, no efforts to study them, no heroic rescue missions. You run and you keep running until you reach the nearest starship. This is not cowardice, cadets. This is survival. The hologram now showed evacuation procedures, emergency beacon signals, and escape route planning. These creatures have never been captured alive. They have never been studied in controlled conditions. Every piece of information we have about them comes from the few seconds of security footage we recover from destroyed outposts. Ryan raised his hand. Professor Aldrich paused, noticing the human gesture. Yes, Cadet Walsh? Sir, when you say they've never been studied in controlled conditions, Ryan began, his voice casual and curious. Does that include domestication attempts? A few cadets turned to look at him with confusion. Domestication of apex hunters. The concept seemed absurd. Domestication is impossible, cadet, the professor replied firmly. These are apex predators with intelligence levels comparable to our own. They cannot be tamed, trained, or controlled. They exist only to hunt and kill. Ryan nodded thoughtfully, then raised his hand again. My family back on Earth kept 3 of them as pets. The room fell into absolute silence. Every eye, compound or otherwise, turned to stare at the human. Professor Aldrich's tentacles froze mid-gesture, his expression shifting from confusion to concern. "I'm sorry. What did you say?" the professor asked slowly. "My family kept 3 apex hunters as pets," Ryan repeated matter-of-factly. "We called them Patches, Thunder, and Luna. Had them since I was about 10 years old. Great guard dogs, actually. Very loyal once you earn their trust." Nira's compound eyes seemed to grow even larger. Bolt's crystalline form flickered uncertainly. Finn had turned completely white, a color Ryan had never seen from his species before. Professor Aldrich stared at the human cadet for several long moments. "Cadet Walsh, are you feeling well? Perhaps the stress of advanced training has affected your judgment?" "No, sir, I feel fine," Ryan replied. "Is there something wrong with keeping apex hunters?" "I mean, they're a bit high maintenance compared to regular dogs, and they eat a lot more meat. But they're really not that difficult to care for once you understand their pack dynamics." The silence stretched on. Several cadets looked like they might faint. Professor Aldrich's skin had taken on a grayish tint that indicated either illness or extreme shock among his people. "Cadet Walsh," the professor said very carefully, "apex hunters are the most dangerous predators in known space. They have wiped out entire colonies. They are unstoppable killing machines." Ryan looked genuinely puzzled. "Are we talking about the same creatures?" "Because the ones my family had were actually pretty friendly. Luna used to sleep at the foot of my bed every night. Patches loved playing fetch, though we had to use titanium balls because she kept crushing the regular ones. And Thunder was great with my little sister, very protective but gentle." The room remained silent as everyone processed this impossible information. Professor Aldrich seemed to struggle with how to respond to such an absurd claim from an otherwise rational cadet. Finally, Ryan added, "I've got some pictures on my personal communicator if you'd like to see them." 2 hours later, Ryan found himself in Security Office 7, surrounded by 3 Academy officials who looked like they had seen a ghost. Director Kessa, a tall reptilian being with golden scales, sat across from him with a stack of files. Medical Officer Vorn, whose purple skin showed patches of concerned yellow, kept checking readings on his scanner. Commander Hale, the only other human at the Academy, paced behind them with his arms crossed. "Let me understand this correctly," Director Kessa said, her forked tongue flicking out as she spoke. "You claim your family domesticated not 1 but 3 apex hunters?" "Yes, ma'am," Ryan replied calmly. "Though technically my parents did the domesticating before I was born. I just grew up with them." Medical Officer Vorn waved his scanner over Ryan again. "Brain activity appears normal. No signs of delusion or psychological breakdown. Heart rate is steady. He genuinely believes what he's saying." Commander Hale stopped pacing and leaned against the wall. As the only other human present, everyone expected him to provide insight into his species' bizarre behavior. "Ryan, I've been to Earth multiple times. I've never seen or heard of anyone keeping apex hunters as pets."
"Are you sure you're not thinking of some other Earth creature?"
Ryan pulled out his personal communicator and scrolled through images. "Here, this is Patches when she was just a cub. Dad found her mother had been killed by a landslide. The little one was starving, so he brought her home. He showed them a picture of a smaller version of the galaxy's most feared predator, sitting in what appeared to be a human kitchen, eating from a large metal bowl." The 3 officials stared at the image. Director Kessa's scales shifted to a paler shade of gold. This cannot be real. Apex hunters do not eat from bowls. They hunt living prey." "Well, they prefer fresh meat," Ryan agreed. "But they'll eat processed food if you prepare it right. Mom used to buy whole cattle from the local ranch and grind it up for them. Mixed in some vitamins and minerals to keep them healthy." Medical Officer Vorn made a strange choking sound. "You fed them cattle?" "About 50 pounds each per day," Ryan nodded. "Growing cubs need proper nutrition, though Luna was always a light eater compared to the other 2. Commander Hale rubbed his temples. "Ryan, show me another picture." The young cadet scrolled to another image. This one showed a fully grown apex hunter lying on a large outdoor bed, with a small human girl of about 8 years old curled up against its massive side, both apparently napping in the sunshine. "That's my sister Amy with Thunder about 3 years ago," Ryan explained. "He always was her favorite. Used to follow her everywhere, made sure she didn't wander too far from the house. Very protective of children." Director Kessa stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "This is impossible. These creatures kill children. They tear apart adult warriors in seconds. Not if they're properly socialized, Ryan said. The key is establishing pack hierarchy early and maintaining consistent boundaries. Dad always said the biggest mistake people make with apex predators is trying to dominate them instead of earning their respect. Medical Officer Vorn checked his scanner again. Still no signs of mental illness. His stress levels are actually lower than normal. Because there's nothing to be stressed about, Ryan said. Look, I understand this might be difficult to accept, but humans have been domesticating predators for thousands of years. Wolves became dogs. Wild horses became riding animals. Big cats became, well, they're still working on that one, but some people manage it. Commander Hale sat down heavily in the remaining chair. The thing is, Ryan, what you're describing goes against everything we know about apex hunters. They're not just predators. They're intelligent, organized killers that have destroyed entire colonies. Ryan looked thoughtful. Were those colonies trying to establish pack dominance through violence? Because that would definitely trigger aggressive responses. Apex hunters are naturally territorial, but they're not mindlessly hostile. They're just very effective at defending what they consider theirs. Defending? Director Kessa's voice rose an octave. They massacred everyone. Right, but did anyone try communicating with them first? Establishing peaceful contact? Offering tribute or trade? Ryan asked. From what you described in class, it sounds like every encounter started with humans or other species, either running away or shooting at them. That's not how you build trust with intelligent predators. The three officials exchanged glances. Medical Officer Vorn spoke first. Cadet Walsh, the standard procedure when encountering apex hunters is immediate evacuation because anything else results in death. Maybe that's the problem, Ryan suggested. If the first thing you do when you see them is run or fight, they're going to assume you're either prey or a threat. Both of those trigger hunting instincts. He showed them another picture. This one displayed an apex hunter sitting calmly in a human backyard, while two children played on swings nearby. The creature appeared to be watching them protectively rather than preparing to attack. Patches loved watching Amy play, Ryan explained. Sometimes other kids from the neighborhood would come over. Patches would position herself where she could see all the children at once. Never let any of them get hurt. Director Kessa sank back into her chair. I need to contact the Academy Board. This requires immediate investigation. Investigation? Ryan asked. Commander Hale nodded grimly. Ryan, if what you're saying is true, it changes everything we know about one of the galaxy's most dangerous species. But if you're lying or delusional, you're endangering yourself and every other cadet who might believe this story. Medical Officer Vorn sealed his scanner. I recommend psychological evaluation and verification of these claims before allowing Cadet Walsh to continue classes. Can I at least finish showing you the pictures? Ryan asked. I've got some great ones from when Luna had her litter. The cubs were adorable. The three officials stared at him in stunned silence. Finally, Director Kessa managed to speak. Luna had cubs? Oh yes, 8 of them. We kept 2 and found good homes for the rest. Made sure the new families understood proper care and training techniques. Ryan scrolled to a picture showing multiple small apex hunters tumbling over each other in play, while adult humans supervised. This was just before we distributed them to their new homes. Commander Hale put his head in his hands. Dear God, there are more of them. Director Kessa paced around the Academy's main communication center like a caged animal. 3 hours of questioning had produced nothing but more incredible claims from Cadet Walsh. The young human sat patiently at the communication terminal, waiting for the long-range connection to Earth to establish. I still believe this is a waste of time, muttered Commander Hale, though his voice lacked conviction. Even if his family does have some kind of large pets, they can't possibly be actual apex hunters. Medical Officer Vorn monitored his instruments nervously. The psychological scans show no deception markers. Either he's telling the truth or he's genuinely convinced himself these false memories are real. Professor Aldrich had joined them, along with several other faculty members. The cetacean educator's tentacles moved in agitated patterns. In 40 years of xenobiology study, I have never encountered a species that could be domesticated by another sentient race. The concept is scientifically impossible. The communication terminal chimed, indicating a successful connection. Ryan smiled and activated the video link. Hi, Mom. The screen flickered to life, showing a middle-aged human woman in what appeared to be a kitchen. She had flour on her hands and a warm smile on her face. Behind her, the officials could see a normal human home with nothing unusual or threatening visible. Ryan, how wonderful to hear from you. How are your studies going? His mother's voice carried the typical warmth of parental affection. Pretty well, Mom. I'm here with some Academy officials who wanted to ask you about our pets. His mother laughed. Oh, are you bragging about the pack again? I hope you're not boring your teachers with too many pictures. Director Kessa stepped into view of the camera. Ma'am, I am Director Kessa of the Galactic Defense Academy. Your son claims that your family keeps apex hunters as domestic animals. Ryan's mother blinked in surprise. Apex hunters? Is that what you call them? We've always just called them the pack, though I suppose they are excellent hunters. She paused thoughtfully. Are you the reason Ryan's been asking such strange questions about them lately? Strange questions? Professor Aldrich moved closer to the screen. About their danger levels and attack patterns. I told him that was silly. They're perfectly safe around people as long as you treat them with respect. She wiped her flour-covered hands on a towel. Would you like to meet them? Before anyone could respond, she called toward the back of the house. Amy, bring Spots to meet Ryan's teachers. Commander Hale grabbed the edge of the terminal. Ma'am, please don't. A young girl of about 10 appeared on screen, running toward the camera with a huge smile. Behind her bounded the unmistakable form of a full-grown apex hunter. The creature's massive frame filled the lower portion of the screen as it skidded to a stop beside the girl. Every alien in the room took an involuntary step backward. Director Kessa's scales turned completely white. Professor Aldrich's tentacles froze in mid-motion. Medical Officer Vorn dropped his scanner, which clattered loudly on the floor. This is Spots, Amy announced cheerfully, throwing her arms around the creature's thick neck. The apex hunter's intelligent eyes looked directly at the camera, showing curiosity rather than aggression. A collar with a small bell could be seen around its neck. Amy, remember what we taught you about introducing Spots to new people? Ryan's mother said gently. Oh, right. The girl looked at the camera seriously. Spots is very friendly, but he's also very big and strong. You should let him smell you first before you try to pet him, and never grab his tail because he doesn't like that. The apex hunter made a low rumbling sound that might have been contentment. Its massive head nuzzled against Amy's shoulder with obvious affection. Commander Hale found his voice first. Ma'am, are you aware that creature could kill everyone in that room in seconds? Ryan's mother looked genuinely puzzled. Spots, kill someone? Commander, I don't think you understand. Spots is the gentlest member of our pack. He won't even kill mice in the house. I have to set traps myself. But it's an apex hunter, Director Kessa managed to whisper. If you say so. We rescued him and his siblings when they were cubs. Their mother had been killed in a forest fire. Ryan's mother scratched behind Spots' ears, causing the massive predator to lean into her touch like an oversized dog. They've been part of our family for 8 years now. Amy piped up again. Want to see him do tricks? Spots, sit. The apex hunter immediately lowered its hindquarters to the floor, tail swishing slightly. Amy reached into her pocket and produced what looked like a large piece of dried meat. Good boy. Now shake hands. The creature lifted one massive paw, which Amy grasped briefly before giving it the treat. The sight of the galaxy's most feared predator performing basic obedience commands sent shocked murmurs through the assembled Academy staff. Shadow. Rex, come meet Ryan's friends, Amy called. 2 more apex hunters appeared in the background of the video feed. One was slightly larger than Spots, with darker fur and distinctive white markings on its chest. The other moved with the fluid grace of a seasoned hunter, but showed no signs of aggression as it approached the camera. That's Shadow and Rex, Ryan explained to the stunned officials. Shadow is the alpha of our pack. Rex is the youngest, only about 5 years old. His mother nodded. Rex is still a bit playful for his size. Last week he knocked over our garden fence chasing a ball Amy threw too hard. She looked directly at the camera. I hope Ryan isn't in trouble for something. He's always been honest about his home life. Professor Aldrich finally found his voice. Ma'am, according to our records, apex hunters are extremely dangerous predators that have destroyed multiple colonies. Oh my. Ryan's mother looked concerned. That's terrible. Though I suppose if someone threatened our family, the pack would certainly defend us. They're very protective. She paused. But they've never hurt anyone who didn't deserve it. Are you sure you're talking about the same species? Shadow, the largest of the 3 creatures, had approached close enough to the camera that its massive head filled part of the screen. Its intelligent eyes seemed to study the aliens on the other end of the communication link. He's trying to figure out what species you are. Amy explained helpfully. Shadow is really smart. He can open doors and everything. Medical Officer Vorn had recovered enough to pick up his dropped scanner. The readings it showed from the video feed confirmed what his eyes refused to believe. The creatures on screen matched exactly with known apex hunter biological markers. This is impossible, Director Kessa muttered. Ryan's mother heard her. What's impossible, dear? Your pets are the most dangerous predators in the known galaxy. Oh, that's just silly, she replied with a laugh. Look at them. Does Spots look dangerous to you? The creature in question had laid down completely and was allowing Amy to use its massive form as a backrest while she played with a handheld game. Its eyes were half closed in contentment, and a sound that could only be described as purring emanated from its throat. Ryan leaned toward the camera. Mom, I need to go. But could you send some more pictures? I think I'm going to need them. Of course, sweetheart. I'll send the whole album from last summer's camping trip. The pack loved the mountains. Word spread through the academy faster than a plasma fire. By the next morning, every cadet knew about the human who claimed his family kept apex hunters as pets. Most thought it was an elaborate joke. Others whispered that Ryan had suffered some kind of mental breakdown. A few brave souls approached him directly during breakfast. Ryan sat at his usual table in the cafeteria, calmly eating synthesized eggs, while surrounded by a growing crowd of curious aliens. Nira perched nearby, her compound eyes fixed on him with fascination. Bolt's crystalline form sparkled with nervous energy, while Finn's amphibious skin shifted through multiple shades of blue and green. So you really grew up with those things? Asked Tara, a feline-featured cadet from the Leonid systems. Her ears twitched with barely contained curiosity. They're not things, Ryan said mildly, taking another bite. They're highly intelligent creatures with complex social structures. Calling them things would be like me calling you a furry thing. Tara's whiskers twitched in what might have been amusement or offense. But they're predators. They hunt and kill. So do you, Ryan pointed out. Your species evolved from apex predators too. The only difference is you developed technology before humans met you. A small group of herbivorous species cadets had gathered at a safe distance, their large eyes watching the conversation with obvious fear. One of them, a deer-like being named Grove, spoke up in a trembling voice. How could your family control such monsters? Ryan set down his fork and looked around the group thoughtfully. That's the wrong question. We didn't control them. We became part of their pack. Packs have hierarchy, Bolt observed, his crystalline voice ringing softly. Who was the alpha? My father, initially. But as Shadow matured, he gradually took over that role. Dad was smart enough to let it happen naturally instead of fighting for dominance. Ryan pulled out his communicator and showed them a picture of a large man sitting peacefully beside an enormous apex hunter. See how relaxed they both look? That's trust. Finn's skin had settled into a pale green color, indicating deep thought among his people. Your father allowed himself to be demoted in pack status? Not demoted. Humans don't think about relationships the same way most species do. Ryan scrolled to another image showing his entire family eating dinner at a large outdoor table, while the 3 apex hunters rested nearby. We don't need to be the strongest or most dominant to be valued pack members. We contribute in different ways. What ways? Nira asked, her antennae leaning forward with interest. Intelligence, planning, resource management, medical care, problem solving. Ryan counted off on his fingers. Humans are really good at figuring out solutions to complex problems. The pack relies on us for that, just like we rely on them for protection and hunting. Tara snorted. Hunting? What could creatures that size possibly hunt that you couldn't get easier with technology? Large, dangerous prey that fights back, Ryan replied seriously. There are things in Earth's wilderness that would tear apart standard hunting robots. But a coordinated pack of apex hunters can take down almost anything. He showed them a video clip. In it, 3 apex hunters moved through dense forest with fluid coordination, communicating through subtle body language and soft vocalizations. They moved like shadows, each one anticipating the other's actions perfectly. Watch how they work together, Ryan narrated. Shadow positions himself for the primary strike. Luna circles around to cut off escape routes, and Thunder stays back as backup in case something goes wrong. Perfect teamwork. Grove, the nervous herbivore, raised a shaking hand. But why would your family want such dangerous companions? Surely there are safer alternatives. Ryan considered the question seriously. Humans have always been drawn to powerful, dangerous things. We like challenges. We respect strength. And honestly, there's something deeply satisfying about earning the trust of a creature that could easily kill you but chooses not to. That's insane, Bolt observed, though his tone suggested curiosity rather than judgment. Maybe, Ryan admitted with a smile, but it's also why humans have domesticated more species than any other race in the galaxy. Wolves, horses, cattle, hawks, dolphins, even some venomous snakes. If it's dangerous and intelligent, humans will eventually try to make friends with it. The crowd had grown larger, now including some faculty members who pretended to be eating while obviously listening. Ryan noticed Professor Aldrich hovering near the serving area, his tentacles betraying his interest despite his apparent focus on selecting lunch. "Show them the swimming pictures," suggested a voice from the crowd. Everyone turned to see Commander Hale approaching their table. The older human looked tired but curious. Ryan brightened and scrolled through his files. "Oh, these are great. We took the pack to the lake last summer." The image showed Amy and Ryan playing in shallow water while all three apex hunters splashed nearby. Despite their fearsome reputation, they looked surprisingly playful as they chased each other through the waves. "Apex hunters can swim?" Nira asked in surprise. "They're excellent swimmers," Ryan confirmed. "Luna especially loves the water. She can hold her breath for almost 10 minutes and swim faster than most boats." Commander Hale sat down at the table, causing several alien cadets to edge away nervously. "Ryan, I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, about how first contact situations might trigger aggressive responses. Right. If every time they meet new species, those species either run in terror or start shooting, they're going to assume that's normal behavior." Ryan pulled up a tactical display on his communicator. "Look at the attack patterns from those colony incidents. They're all defensive formations designed to protect territory, not offensive hunting strategies." He traced lines on the screen with his finger. Here, here, and here. Classic perimeter establishment. They weren't trying to hunt the colonists. They were trying to drive them away. "Drive them away from what?" Commander Hale asked. "Probably their dens, nesting sites, or territory boundaries. Apex hunters are highly territorial, but they're also reasonable. If you approach their space peacefully and show proper respect, most packs will negotiate." Finn had turned a deep blue color, indicating intense concentration. "Negotiate? With nonverbal predators? Who says they're nonverbal?" Ryan asked. "They have complex vocal communications, sophisticated body language, and they can learn to understand human speech pretty well. Shadow knows about 50 different words and phrases." He played an audio clip from his communicator. The sound of an apex hunter's deep, rumbling vocalization filled the cafeteria. Several cadets jumped at the noise, but Ryan smiled fondly. "That's Thunder calling for dinner." Each member of the pack has their own vocal signature, and they can communicate different types of information through tone and pitch variations. Professor Aldrich had abandoned all pretense and approached their table directly. "Cadet Walsh, are you suggesting that previous contact attempts failed because of cultural misunderstandings rather than inherent aggression?" Ryan nodded enthusiastically. "Exactly. Think about it from their perspective. Strange creatures arrive in flying machines, establish camps in their territory without permission, and then when the pack comes to investigate, the strangers either flee in panic or attack with weapons. What would you assume about species that behave that way?" The professor's tentacles writhed in obvious distress. "But the casualties, entire colonies wiped out." "Because they defended themselves when attacked," Ryan said sadly. "And once a conflict starts with apex predators, it usually ends badly for everyone involved. They're very efficient fighters." Commander Hale leaned back in his chair. "So you're saying these creatures aren't monsters? They're just misunderstood neighbors who got off on the wrong foot with the galaxy." Ryan showed them one final picture. It displayed his sister Amy asleep in a hammock with spots curled up beneath her like a massive protective shadow. "Does that look like a monster to you?" The transport shuttle bucked and shook as it entered the atmosphere of Helix 7, a rocky training world used for advanced combat simulations. Ryan checked his equipment one final time while his squad mates performed their own pre-mission rituals. 2 weeks had passed since his revelation about apex hunters, and the Academy officials had decided the best way to test his claims was through practical application. Squad leader Vega, a tough reptilian veteran with scars across her scaled face, briefed them over the comm system. Remember, this is a standard reconnaissance exercise. You have 6 hours to map the Northern Valley, identify potential threats, and establish 3 defensive positions. Simple stuff. Nira adjusted her specialized equipment pack designed to accommodate her insectoid physiology. Simple for everyone except the human who thinks he can talk to the galaxy's most dangerous predators, she muttered, though her tone held more curiosity than mockery. I never said I could talk to them, Ryan corrected. I said I understand their behavior patterns and social cues. Bolt's crystalline form flickered with nervous energy. Let us hope we do not encounter any creatures requiring such understanding. The shuttle touched down in a grassy clearing, surrounded by dense forest. As the squad disembarked, Ryan immediately began scanning the tree line with practiced eyes. His behavior differed markedly from his teammates, who focused on their electronic sensors and tactical displays. What are you looking for? Finn asked, his amphibious skin shifting to a cautious yellow-green. Sign, Ryan replied simply. Broken branches at the right height, scratch marks on tree bark, scent trails, disturbed ground cover. Electronic sensors are useful, but they miss a lot of subtle indicators. Squad leader Vega consulted her tactical display. Sensors show clear for 2 kilometers in all directions. We move out in standard formation. Walsh, you take point since you seem so confident about reading natural signs. They moved through the forest in single file, following established patrol procedures. Ryan led them along animal trails and natural corridors, occasionally stopping to examine markings on trees or changes in vegetation patterns. His squad mates stayed alert but relaxed, trusting their sensors and training. After 2 hours of uneventful progress, Ryan suddenly froze mid-step. His hand went up in the universal signal for immediate halt. Behind him, the squad stopped instantly. Weapons ready, what is it? Vega whispered over the comm. Ryan knelt beside a large tree and pointed to a series of deep gouges in the bark, about 7 feet off the ground. Claw marks. Fresh ones, made within the last few hours. Nira moved closer, her compound eyes examining the damage. Could be from any large predator. Nothing to worry about. The spacing and depth indicate claws approximately 4 inches long, Ryan said quietly. The angle suggests a creature standing on hind legs at roughly 6 feet in height. And look here. He pointed to the ground below the tree. Distinctive pad prints with claw impressions. Bolt's crystalline form dimmed noticeably. You are suggesting? We're in Apex Hunter territory, Ryan confirmed. Probably a established pack area, based on the territorial markings. Squad leader Vega activated her emergency comm. Base, this is Alpha Squad. We have possible Apex Hunter sign in Sector 7. Request immediate extraction. The response crackled through their communicators. Alpha Squad, confirm Apex Hunter presence before initiating emergency protocols. Sensor data shows no large predator signatures in your area. Sensors won't detect them if they don't want to be detected, Ryan said. Their natural camouflage defeats most standard equipment. As if summoned by his words, a low, rumbling growl echoed through the forest around them. The sound seemed to come from multiple directions at once, making it impossible to pinpoint the source. Every member of the squad except Ryan immediately raised their weapons and formed a defensive circle. There, Ryan whispered, pointing to a section of dense undergrowth that looked identical to everything around it. Alpha, probably male based on the vocal depth. Nira's compound eyes strained to see what Ryan had spotted. I see nothing but vegetation. That's the point, Ryan replied calmly. Perfect adaptive camouflage. But watch for micro-movements. There, did you see that branch shift slightly against the wind pattern? Another growl answered from their left flank, then a third from behind them. The pack was surrounding them with textbook precision. Squad leader Vega's scales had turned a pale gray color, indicating extreme stress among her people. Base, we have confirmed Apex Hunter contact. Multiple contacts. Initiating emergency extraction protocol. She switched to squad frequency. Everyone stay calm. Follow evacuation procedures. Do not make sudden movements. Wait, Ryan said quietly. Don't run yet. Are you insane? Bolt's crystalline form flickered rapidly. Protocol clearly states immediate retreat when facing Apex Hunters. Protocol is based on failed encounters, Ryan explained, slowly lowering himself into a crouch. Every recorded meeting ended in violence because nobody tried to communicate peacefully. He began making a series of soft vocalizations, similar to the sounds his family's pack used for non-threatening communication. The deep rumbles from the forest paused, replaced by what sounded almost like questioning chirps. "What are you doing?" Finn whispered, his skin now completely white with terror. "Establishing non-aggressive intent," Ryan replied. "I'm telling them we're not here to challenge their territory or harm their pack. We're just passing through." One of the hidden apex hunters responded with a complex series of sounds. Ryan listened carefully, then replied with different vocalizations. The conversation continued for several tense minutes while his squad mates watched in amazement. "You're actually talking to them," Nira breathed. "Basic communication, yes. They're asking why we're in their territory and whether we represent a threat to their cubs." Ryan made another series of sounds, then slowly reached into his pack. "I'm going to offer tribute." "A gesture of respect. Tribute?" Vega asked nervously. Ryan pulled out a ration pack containing processed meat. "High-quality protein. Shows we understand pack hierarchy and respect their dominance in this area." He placed the package on the ground between himself and the hidden predators, then backed away slowly. The forest remained silent for long moments. Then, with movement so fluid they seemed like flowing shadow, an enormous apex hunter emerged from the undergrowth directly in front of them. Its massive form stood exactly where Ryan had indicated, confirming his ability to track the camouflaged predator. The creature was even larger than the ones in Ryan's family pictures. Battle scars crisscrossed its dark fur, and its intelligent eyes held the confidence of an undisputed apex predator. It approached the offered food cautiously, nostrils flaring as it analyzed the scent. "Nobody move," Ryan whispered. "Let him investigate. This is their ritual for accepting peaceful contact." The apex hunter sniffed the food package, then looked directly at Ryan. The two species regarded each other for several heartbeats. Then, in a gesture that shocked everyone except Ryan, the massive predator dipped its head slightly in what could only be described as acknowledgement. It picked up the food in its powerful jaws and melted back into the forest with the same fluid grace. The other hidden pack members also withdrew, their movement marked only by the gradual cessation of threatening growls. Squad leader Vega stared at Ryan in amazement. "They're gone. Just like that. They were never hunting us," Ryan explained. "We entered their territory without permission. They wanted to determine whether we were a threat. Once I demonstrated peaceful intentions and offered appropriate respect, they allowed us safe passage." Finn's skin had begun returning to normal colors. "But the colonies that were destroyed probably tried to establish permanent settlements without negotiating with the local packs," Ryan said sadly. "Or responded to initial contact attempts with violence. Once you shoot at an apex hunter, they assume you're an enemy, and enemies get eliminated." Bolt flickered thoughtfully. "So the key to coexistence is communication, respect, and understanding that they're not mindless monsters. They're intelligent beings with their own social structures and territorial needs." Ryan shouldered his pack. "Just like any other sentient species we might encounter." The comm system crackled with urgent transmissions from base. "Alpha Squad, report status immediately. Extraction team is en route." Squad leader Vega looked at Ryan with new respect. "Base, this is Alpha Squad. Apex Hunter contact resolved peacefully. No casualties, no injuries. Request permission to continue mission. Negative. Alpha Squad, return to base immediately for debriefing." "Understood, base." Alpha Squad returning. Vega switched to squad frequency. "Walsh, I don't know what you just did, but you may have changed everything we know about these creatures." As they made their way back to the extraction point, Ryan noticed his squad mates watching him with a mixture of awe and curiosity. The impossible had happened. A human cadet had successfully negotiated peaceful contact with the galaxy's most feared predators. And somewhere in the forest behind them, an apex hunter pack continued their normal daily activities, secure in the knowledge that the strange visitors had shown proper respect for their territory and traditions. 6 months later, the Galactic Defense Academy's graduation ceremony looked different than anyone could have imagined. Instead of the traditional indoor auditorium, the event took place in a large outdoor amphitheater specially constructed for the occasion. The reason for this change lay in the 3 massive forms resting peacefully at the edge of the ceremonial area. Ryan's family had traveled from Earth to attend his graduation, bringing with them Spots, Shadow, and Rex. The 3 apex hunters wore ceremonial collars, decorated with Alliance insignia and lei. calmly in the sunshine while hundreds of alien dignitaries watched from a respectful distance. Director Kessa stood at the podium, her golden scales now bearing the insignia of her recent promotion to Academy Superintendent. Today marks not only the graduation of our finest cadets, but the beginning of a new era in galactic relations, she announced to the assembled crowd. In the months following the Helix 7 incident, everything had changed. Ryan's demonstration of peaceful contact had triggered the largest xenobiological research initiative in galactic history. Teams of scientists, diplomats, and military officials had traveled to Earth to study human domestication techniques and observe the Walsh family's pack in their natural environment. Professor Aldrich, now bearing the title of Director of Interspecies Communication Studies, approached the podium. His tentacles moved in patterns that indicated deep satisfaction among his people. 6 months ago, we believed apex hunters were mindless killing machines. Today, we graduate our first class of apex hunter communication specialists. The crowd applauded as 23 cadets stepped forward, each having completed intensive training in predator psychology, pack dynamics, and interspecies negotiation. Ryan stood at the head of the group, but he was no longer alone in his understanding of these magnificent creatures. Nira had proven particularly adept at reading apex hunter body language, her compound eyes detecting subtle movement patterns that other species missed. Bolt's crystalline structure resonated with the low-frequency vocalizations the creatures used for long-distance communication. Even Finn had discovered an unexpected talent for mimicking their territorial marking behaviors. Commander Hale stepped up to present the graduates with their special insignia. These officers will serve as the first members of the Galactic Apex Hunter Cooperation Initiative. Their mission is to establish peaceful contact protocols with wild packs and prevent future colonial conflicts. The ceremony continued with traditional speeches and awards, but everyone's attention kept drifting to the 3 massive predators resting nearby. Shadow occasionally lifted his great head to survey the crowd, his intelligent eyes showing curiosity rather than aggression. Rex had actually fallen asleep in the warm sunshine, while Spots maintained a protective position where he could observe both the ceremony and Amy, who sat with Ryan's parents in the front row. As the formal proceedings concluded, something unprecedented happened. Director Kessa invited several pack representatives to participate in the closing ceremony. Ryan's father approached the podium with Shadow walking calmly beside him. 6 months ago, my son told you that our family kept apex hunters as pets, the elder Walsh began, his voice carrying clearly across the amphitheater. I want to correct that statement. We don't keep them as pets. They are our partners, our family members, and our equals in intelligence and dignity. He gestured to Shadow, who sat beside the podium, with the patience of a trained diplomat. This magnificent being and his packmates have taught us that the universe is full of intelligent species we haven't learned to communicate with yet. The key is not domination or control, but mutual respect and understanding. The crowd watched in amazement as Shadow rose and placed one massive paw on the podium, almost as if he were adding his own endorsement to the speech. The gesture sent ripples of astonished murmurs through the assembled dignitaries. Later, during the reception, small groups of graduates and officials gathered around the apex hunters. Under careful supervision from Ryan and his family, several alien species had their first direct contact with the creatures they had feared for so long. Grove, the nervous herbivorous cadet who had initially been terrified of the very concept, now stood within arm's reach of Rex, offering him pieces of specially prepared meat. The young apex hunter accepted the treats gently, careful not to accidentally harm the much smaller being with his powerful jaws. They're nothing like the stories, Grove whispered in wonder. He's so careful, so aware of how much stronger he is. Amy Walsh had become something of a celebrity at the reception, demonstrating the various commands and tricks the pack had learned. When she asked Spots to shake hands with Director Kessa, the massive predator delicately extended one paw to briefly touch the reptilian administrator's scaled hand. Remarkable, Director Kessa murmured. Absolutely remarkable. To think we spent decades viewing them as monsters when they were actually potential allies. Ryan stood with his graduating class, watching the scene with satisfaction. Professor Aldrich approached him, moving with the measured grace typical of his species. Cadet Walsh. No, I suppose it's Lieutenant Walsh now. The professor corrected himself. I owe you an apology. When you first spoke up in my class, I thought you were either lying or delusional. You couldn't have known, Ryan replied. The galaxy's first impressions of apex hunters were shaped by fear and misunderstanding. It took time to overcome those preconceptions. What will you do now? Professor Aldrich asked. I understand you've received multiple assignment offers. Ryan looked across the reception area where his family mingled with alien dignitaries, while their three massive companions maintained watchful but relaxed positions. I'm going to help establish the first apex hunter sanctuary world. A place where wild packs can live safely while we work on improving communication between species. And after that, there are dozens of other species the galaxy considers too dangerous to approach. Giant crystal spiders on Kepler 9, the shadow hunters of Proxima Station, those energy beings that destroyed the research post on Titan 7. Ryan's eyes held the same eager curiosity that had first driven humans to domesticate wolves thousands of years ago. I think it's time humans started making some new friends. As the ceremony drew to a close, Ryan found himself standing beside Shadow while the great predator watched the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. The massive creature's presence was no longer frightening, but comforting, like having a loyal friend nearby. You know, Ryan said quietly to his companion, I think this is just the beginning. Shadow turned his great head and looked at the young human with eyes that held unmistakable intelligence and what might have been agreement. In the distance, other species were learning that the monsters of their nightmares might actually be the allies of their future. The galaxy would never be the same. And humanity had once again proven that their greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons, but their incredible ability to see potential friends where others saw only enemies.